What's going on, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a reaction to Ministry and their album, The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste. I just so badly want to say waste, and I know that's the idea. Brought to us by friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Robert. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons that make this thing go. If you like to support us anyway, check out that Patreon link below or the patron link on the end screen. We couldn't do it without him. I don't know anything about Ministry, but I did the Downward Spiral, the classic from Nine Inch Nails last month for Robert, and super enjoyed that. So let's dive into a little bit of background before we get into this out. Ministry is an American industrial metal band founded in Chicago, Illinois in 1981 by producer, singer, and instrumentalist Al Jourgensen. Originally a synth pop outfit, Ministry evolved into one of the pioneers of industrial rock and industrial metal in the late 1980s. The band's lineup has changed frequently, leaving Jourgensen as a sole original member. Musicians who have contributed to the band's studio or live activities include vocalist Nivek Ogre, Gibby Haynes, Burton C. Bell, and many others. Guitarist Mike Scasia and Tommy Victor, guitarist Cesar Soto, bassist Paul Barker, Paul Raven, Jason Christopher, Tony Campos, and Paul DeArmor. Drummers Jimmy Gigrasso, Bill Rieflin, Martin Atkins, Ray Washam, Max Brody, Joey Jordison, and Ray Mayorga. Keyboardist John Betchel, and rappers and producers DJ Swamp and Arabian Prince. The band's been nominated for 6 Grammy Awards and has performed at several music festivals, including the second annual Lollapalooza tour in 1992, co-headlining Big Day Out in 1995, and performing at Wacken Open Air thrice in 2006, 2012, and 2016. They got 15 studio albums. Let's jump into this album. It's their 4th studio album, released on November 14th, 1989 by Sire Records. I had only graduated from high school a few months before that. The music took a more hardcore, aggressively guitar-driven direction, with Jourgensen inspired by Stormtroopers of Death and Rigor Mortis to add thrash metal guitars to the album and subsequent Ministry releases. As with most of Ministry's work, the album's lyrics deal mainly with political corruption, cultural violence, environmental degradation, nuclear war, drug addiction, and insanity. In other words, all these years later, everything else we're still dealing with, right? Jourgensen recalled the band's state as dysfunctional and the album's production as, quote, complete chaos and mayhem, which gave the band a level of artistic freedom impossible had they planned it. Jourgensen said that despite being a fan favorite, it's not among his favorites because of the condition he was in at the time. He was heavily into drugs during recording and had a poor relationship with his bandmates. In one instance, he chased bassist Paul Barker around the studio with a chair and hit him on the head with it because he couldn't stand him anymore. Little real-life WWE coming to Ministry, right? Jourgensen credited the era, the city, and the atmosphere at Chicago's track studios for the album. Bill Rieflin and Chris Conley instead attribute the album's sound to the band's interest in technology. For pre-production, Rieflin said he and Barker watched films for a month, sampling anything that caught their interest. Instead of writing music, they all improvised individually, rarely collaborating with each other. Conley compared it to exquisite corpse, a surrealist technique in which an artist's work is created collaboratively without any of the participants having knowledge of the other's contribution. Rieflin cited So What as the only track to feature 2 musicians in the studio at the same time. That's crazy. That's tough stuff, right? The title of the album is a reference to the UNCF slogan, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste." Jourgensen was inspired by the Just Say No anti-drug campaign. Rieflin said that the band members groaned when they heard it, but Jourgensen had the final say in naming. According to Conley, the album art was inspired by a television program Jourgensen saw where migraine sufferers painted an image of their pain. The image itself was a picture of an x-ray from a studio receptionist's mother who had been in a car accident and received a metal plate. Jourgensen said he wanted that as the album artwork as soon as he found out about it, but the other band members disliked it. The album peaked at 163 in the US, but was certified gold for sales in excess of 500,000 units because back then that was viewed as a flop. Nowadays, that would be viewed as a huge hit. Metal Storm gave it a 10 out of 10, and the great Robert Christgau, who was like one of the toughest critics ever, gave it a B+, which is incredibly high for him. Music critic Tom Moon included the album in his 1,000 recordings to hear before you die, calling it, quote, one of the greatest works of industrial music and an influential album that is way ahead of its time. According to a 2016 interview with The Quietest, Al gave his thoughts regarding the album. He said, quote, with Rape and Honey, I'd started messing around with the cut-up thing, knowing that I was never going to be Jimi Hendrix on guitar or Rick Wakeman on keyboards or something, the great Yes Man. I just did what I could and then spliced them all together, and it came out good. At that point, it was exciting. Music was this whole new frontier. So Rape and Honey got me going, and I continued. I can play guitar, I can play violin, I can play banjo, keyboards, piano, trumpet, sax, you name it. But I'm not really good at any of them. I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none, but that is absolutely impressive, right? But I can collage bits and pieces together musically. It was not fun to make this record because like Dark Side, Filth Pig, and Psalm, there was so much debauchery. But the way I write music is 3 or 4 months of the year. Every single year, I make it a point to pencil in 3 or 4 months of recording because I have all these ideas in my head and I go in and bulk record. I put it all on the shelf and at the end I go, you know what? That would be awesome for a Revco record, or that's totally ministry. All right, before we get started, the music will not be in the video, but it will be at a Vimeo link below. Click on that and follow along with us. Let's kick this thing off with the first track, Thieves. The song's lyrics deal mainly with political corruption and includes dialogue samples from R. Lee Emery's drill instructor character in Full Metal Jacket, an iconic cinematic character, right? Jorgensen later attributed these samples to Stanley Kubrick's interest in having the band appear in AI, artificial intelligence. And I'm going to kind of let you know throughout these songs what else you hear. You hear I Want Peace, which is former U.S. President Richard Nixon. We are fighting for the liberation of man, not for the rights of these pigs, the rights of society. We're going to rip this MFR off. We're going to tear this MFR down. I hope they realize this is their GD chance. Power to the people. This is from the War at Home documentary. And then the chorus of Thieves is influenced by Mr. Suit by the English band Wire. Limp Bizkit did a cover of this, but we're not going to hold that against ministry, right? All right, I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Robert. You know, one of the things I love about this channel, especially being driven by patrons, is that I'll listen to stuff that I would never listen to. I would never listen to ministry on my own. I would never listen to this kind of music. This song's great, man. This song's freaking great. From the jump, it's great, right? The guitar work, the drumming. It sounds like there's an actual drill, like a tool of a drill on here that actually works with it at different points. And just all the vocal drops in there, you know, it's just fantastic, man. One of these, someone says, we're going to rip this MFR off. We're going to tear this MFR down. Now, the research I did, you know, told us that was from the War at Home documentary. Someone says it's Mel Gibson from Lethal Weapon, which it kind of sounds like Mel Gibson from Lethal Weapon, but I don't remember that being in Lethal Weapon. So I'm still going to go it's from that documentary. But I mean, I think the song itself is probably a politician's, right? Thieves, liar. I mean, and boy, that has not changed any, but it just all works. It's a really mastercraft class in musicianship. So really good way to start this thing. Next up, we have Burning Inside. It was released as a sole single, went to 23 on the Billboard Modern Rock charts. The intro of Warning Horn and synthesizer tones is from John Carpenter's The Thing, that's a legendary, and John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. The Mind is a Labyrinth is from the film Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. All right, Burning Inside, another really good song. I don't like quite as much as Thieves, but that's not any shade to it. It's a really good song. The Burning Inside is kind of gets you wanting to shout it out as it goes on. Al kind of has his voice mixed to the background a little more in this for a little bit, but you know, I don't know exactly what it's about. I mean, it's about corruption. I mean, I guess what a lot of this stuff's about. But it starts out, will these dreams still follow me out of dark obscurity? Can't you see it up in the sky as it kicks you in the face and sucks you dry? You never had the answers, and now you tell me the facts of life. I really couldn't be bothered with you. Get out of my face and watch me die. Burning inside, burning inside. To me, that's a father figure, a parent, but then it kind of builds from there. But, you know, he just doesn't just write these like random lyrics. Like, this is really well done. Next up, we have Never Believe. Couldn't find anything on this song. Never Believe. So you got Chris Conley on lead vocals on this one. It was, so it was a little different. He's like mixed to the back. I didn't like it as well. But then the more it went on, like the way they build the instrumentation, the guitars were great. I don't know if it was Bill or Al on this, and the drumming with Bill on here is fantastic. But the way with this industrial music, the way it builds throughout the song, eventually you find yourself at the end of the song singing it, whether you want to or not, right? It builds and grows on you. It's one of the things about this type of music that I'm learning is fantastic. As far as what the song's about, I don't really know, so I'm not going to try to sit here and break it down for you. It's more about the vibe of just feeling. Like I said, the drumming is definitely a standout. Now, like I said, we go to another Chris Conley-led song. We got Cannibal Song. Cannibal Song. That was quite the journey, wasn't it? I mean, the bass, that repeating riff of the bass was just incredible, right? And it pulled you in from the very start, you know. And so Paul did a great job on that. Once again, I'm not as big of a fan of Chris's vocal. I mean, it's fine, man. This song worked for what it was, man. I take it as this guy's in prison, right? Kind of showing what happens to you when you're in prison. I think a literal prison, but it could be a figurative prison as well, right? But kind of how that pulls you down into the depths. But and I thought the music really told that story, the arrangement, very well. Next up, as we reach the halfway mark of this album, this is song number 5. There's 9 songs. We got Breathe. Al Jorgensen came up with the chorus of the song when during the recording session, He saw someone passed out on their vomit. Remember, I told you, like, there's debauchery going on here, and shouted at them, "Breathe, you effer." I don't say the word just because I don't want it to pick it up in the YouTube profane and then tag this video. The song itself deals with global warming and ecologic disasters brought on by man. Now remember, this is 1989. Good thing that's changed, huh? Opening musical sequence, the first 30 seconds is taken from the film Cry Freedom. Breathe, 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 you. I won't say it, but I guess I like industrial rock. I would have told you no way before I did Nine Inch Nails in this, but like the longer this goes on, the drumming is fantastic. It just, the way the arrangement is, it just sticks in your head, and, you know, Al just yelling that, and Chris is doing backing vocals on this, but, and it's very well written, right? And corporate corpses with self-serve denial, the raping of the land collapse, the lungs malfunction, they never learn to breathe, and we get to breathe. And then talk about rusted syringe and half-life disposals, a burial at sea, wastewater graveyard, swimming in disease. And this is 1989. In 2023, when I'm filming this, all this stuff is 100 times worse, which is just tragic because everybody just ignored it. Not everybody, but none of us who had any power in it could do anything about it. Children gasping the secondhand air, dance of desperation. We cut through toxic lies with truth. We breathe. Because here's the thing. It's all about money, right? Corporate greed. They know what they're doing. The governments know what they're doing to all these resources. They just don't care because it's all about the money, and the guys at the top get rich. It's a tale as old as time. It's the same way when we send people off to war. It's a lot of times the poor people that go, and the rich people and the powerful people sit there and watch it. So anyway, all right, end of tirade. Go to So What. This thing's over 8 minutes long, so moving forward. This is the dialogue spoken during the song. You have had all that money can give you, kill for a thrill, etc. It's from the judge's summing up at the end of the Ed Wood scripted film, The Violent Years. Go Ahead, Assassin, and the laughter sample are, of course, from the legendary Al Pacino 1983 flick, Scarface. So what? What is the masterful way to construct a song, right? Like, that was crazy, man. You get a long, like, start from that, The Violent Years, written by Ed Wood from 1956, at the start of it, and then at the end of it, you get respect at the end of that whole, like, little blurb. You get respect said 11 times, so I get you. And then a little bit of controversy here from Scarface. It says it does not say die. It says quai. I think that's the way you say it. In Spanish, that means what? And I watched a little video of it here. I apologize and watched a little video. That's what Tony Montana is saying. So he's not saying die, but the way it's just all these things are dropped. All these drops are put in there along with the music, and the rhythm section obviously is just fantastic. The drumming and the bass are just phenomenal in this song. And Drive It, man, it just all works together. It's kind of a masterpiece of arrangement, right? I mean, it's just so well done. And next up we have Test. The New York-based rapper K-Light sang vocals on Test. Jorgensen said that Ministry and K-Light have been recording songs at the same time at the studio. Both Jorgensen and K-Light were impressed with the aggressiveness of each other's music, and Jorgensen invited him to contribute vocals for a track. So I'm kind of curious how this goes. Like, the Grand Wizard K-Light and the Slogan God Tommy Boyski are the two that are credited with vocals on here. So let's check this out. So at the very end, that's where you got the Slogan God coming in, I think, on the wake up. This worked really well, right? This type of arrangement and instrumental arrangement worked out really well with the vocals, man. It just did. Basically just telling you to be your own person. Don't listen to everybody else. Don't be a sheep. You forge your own path, and people will resent you for it, and all that is true. But just really catchy. I can just hear it in my head right now. We got 2 tracks left. We got Faith Collapsing. The song was inspired by a sample from Fahrenheit 451, and the band brainstormed from there. Other samples include INSOC Propaganda from 1984 and the Clown Laugh from Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. I bet this one is going to be an interesting one. All right, Faith Collapsing. I mean, once again, the rhythm section, the bass and the drumming is the highlight here. If you pulled this song off this album, right, and just put it on for somebody, they'd be like, what the hell is this? But it works in the general context and flow of the album, right? I mean, I don't really have a lot else to say about it. Let's go to the last track. We got Dream Song. The female spoken word part of Dream Song is a recorded conversation with Angela Lucasen. Jorgensen's future and now ex-wife. Jorgensen had met her while on tour in Canada, impressed with her entertaining personality, called her on the phone several times while working on the album. He recalled the conversations as her, quote, babbling about dreams and angels while high. She herself said Dream Song was a poem she wrote after having a dream about an angel. She did not know she was being recorded, but enjoyed the song. It features a Bulgarian state television female vocal choir singing the song Kalaminiku Dinku, you know I butchered that, off of the 1975 compilation album. Well, oh boy, this is just off a compilation album. It's all French. You know I'll kill it. Let's not even do that to this poor song. All right, let's finish this thing off. All right, Dream Song. I mean, kind of fitting with the album. It finishes out in a strange way to just put all this together. Like you really can't hear anything until, they mix in her little story towards the end of the song. But it's just got that industrial dun, dun, dun. It probably works to finish this album off as well. I don't really have a lot else to say about this one. Well, now we're going to get to my favorite tracks. Honorable mention, Burning Inside. The only single, ironically enough, off this. Faves are going to be Thieves, Breathe, and So What. Just all those are fantastic. Now we'll get to my overall score. Look, Al Jorgensen, I don't want to use the word genius, but this guy is like insanely talented. And the fact that he was high and on drugs and screwed up during this makes it even more amazing. The way this is all just put together, the production of it all is fantastic. Paul Barker on the bass and then Bill Riflin on the drums are also just fantastic, right? Obviously. But yeah, it's just so well done. And it is so far ahead of its time. This is 1989. I graduated from high school in 1989. I'm 52 now, so let that one sink in. So overall score on this one, I'm going to be a sky high 8.25. I mean, you can talk me into even a little bit higher for this. I mean, this is really, really good. Let me know your favorite tracks below. What else should I check out from Ministry? And thank you to Robert, man. Not only for bringing this, but for bringing 9 Inch Nails last month, man. Showing me that my maybe just perceived bias against industrial rock was totally off base. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, I will see you.